The child's last smile. The sun was setting on a quiet evening on Earth. The sky was painted in soft shades of pink and orange, as if the day was saying a gentle goodbye. In a small park, a young child, no more than 7 years old, played alone. The child's laughter filled the air, bringing joy to anyone who heard it. The child had a simple toy, a ball that lit up with colors when it was tossed into the air. Every time the ball lit up, the child's face lit up too, with a smile that was pure and innocent. The park was a peaceful place, surrounded by tall trees that whispered secrets to each other in the breeze. The child's parents sat on a bench nearby watching their child play. They smiled at each other, feeling content and happy. It was moments like these that made life worth living, simple, quiet moments filled with love and joy. But in the vastness of the galaxy, not everyone felt the same way about humans. Far away on a distant planet, the Galactic Council was holding a secret meeting. The members of the council were powerful beings from different alien species, and they ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. They feared the potential of humans, a species that had grown rapidly in strength and influence. The council believed that humans were dangerous, that their emotions made them unpredictable, and that they could not be controlled. One of the council members, a cold and calculating alien named Zarath, spoke up. "We must send a message to the humans," Zarath said in a voice that was sharp and icy. "They need to understand that they are not the rulers of this galaxy. They are nothing but a threat to our power." The other council members murmured in agreement. They knew what Zarath was suggesting, but they hesitated. Killing a human, especially a child, was a step that could not be taken lightly. But Zarath was persuasive and ruthless. "If we eliminate one of their own," Zarath continued, "they will learn their place. They will know that we are not to be challenged." Back on Earth, the child continued to play, unaware of the danger that was coming. The child threw the ball into the air, laughing as it lit up with bright, colorful lights. The parents watched with loving eyes, their hearts full of pride for their little one. They had no idea that this would be their child's last happy moment. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, a small, almost invisible ship entered Earth's atmosphere. It moved silently, unnoticed by anyone. The ship was sent by the Galactic Council, and its mission was clear: to end the life of the human child. Inside the ship, a single alien assassin was ready, waiting for the right moment. The child's ball bounced away, rolling towards the edge of the park. The child ran after it, laughing all the way. The parents called out, reminding the child not to go too far, but their voices were soft, trusting that their child was safe. They had no reason to think otherwise. The world seemed so peaceful, so perfect. But as the child reached for the ball, the assassin struck. A single, silent beam of light shot from the ship, hitting the child in the chest. The child froze, the smile fading from their face. For a brief moment, the child looked up at the sky, confusion in their innocent eyes. And then, the light in those eyes faded too. The parents saw it happen as if in slow motion. They screamed, running towards their child, but it was too late. The assassin's job was done, and the ship vanished into the sky as quickly as it had come. The child lay still on the ground, the once bright and colorful ball now dull and lifeless beside them. The parents fell to their knees, holding their child's lifeless body in their arms. Their hearts were shattered, their world destroyed in an instant. They cried out in pain and anguish, but there was no one to answer. The park, once filled with laughter, was now silent, except for the sobs of two parents who had lost their most precious gift. News of the tragedy spread quickly across Earth. People were shocked, horrified that a child could be taken in such a cruel and heartless way. The entire planet mourned, united in grief. But as the sadness grew, so did the anger. Humans are a species driven by emotion, and this act of violence against an innocent child awakened something deep within them. Earth's leaders gathered in emergency meetings, discussing what had happened and what they should do. But even before they spoke, they knew there was only one answer. This was not just an attack on one child. This was an attack on all of humanity. And humanity would not stand by and do nothing. As the sun finally set and darkness covered the land, a decision was made. Earth would unleash its ancient fleet, a fleet that had been hidden away for centuries, waiting for a moment just like this. The time for peace was over. The time for justice had begun, and so the child's last smile would not be forgotten. It would be the spark that ignited the flames of war, a war that would shake the galaxy to the forgotten fleet. The world was in mourning. The death of the innocent child had shaken every human on Earth. The sorrow was deep, but so was the anger. The child's death was not just a tragedy, it was an attack, an unforgivable act of cruelty that demanded a response. The people of Earth cried out for justice, and their leaders listened. In a secret underground base hidden deep beneath the mountains, Earth's leaders gathered. This base was known only to a few, a place where the most important decisions were made. The walls were lined with screens showing images of the galaxy, star maps, and data from distant planets. The room was filled with tension, the air heavy with the weight of the choice they were about to make. At the head of the table sat General Marcus, a man known for his calm and steady leadership. His face was serious, his eyes focused. "We all know why we're here," he said, his voice strong. "What happened to that child was an act of war. The Galactic Council believes they can intimidate us, that they can kill one of our own and we will do nothing. They are wrong." The other leaders nodded in agreement. They knew that the time for talk was over. The Galactic Council had crossed a line, and Earth had no choice but to respond. "We have one option," General Marcus continued, "an option we have kept hidden for centuries. It's time to awaken the fleet." There was a moment of silence as the words sank in. The fleet, an ancient, powerful collection of warships built long ago, during a time when Earth was preparing for the worst. These ships were not like the ones currently in service. They were stronger, faster, and equipped with technology that was far beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. But for many years, they had remained hidden, stored away in secret locations around the solar system. "Are we sure we're ready for this?" one of the leaders asked, her voice tinged with worry. "The fleet has been dormant for so long. Do we even know if it still works?" General Marcus nodded. "The fleet is ready. Our engineers have been maintaining it, preparing for the day we might need it. That day is now. We will show the Galactic Council that we are not to be trifled with." Another leader spoke up, this time with a tone of determination. "This is more than just a response to an attack. This is about protecting our future. If we do nothing, they will continue to see us as weak. But if we strike back, if we show them the power we possess, they will think twice before crossing us again." The decision was made, orders were given, and the room buzzed with activity as the leaders prepared to awaken the forgotten fleet. Across the solar system, in hidden bases on the Moon, Mars, and even on asteroids, the ancient ships began to stir. Deep within these ships, engines that had been silent for centuries roared to life, and the ships themselves hummed with energy as they came online. On Earth, the people didn't yet know what was happening. They continued to mourn the loss of the child, unaware that their leaders were preparing to unleash a force that would change the course of history. But soon, they would understand. In one of the hidden bases, deep beneath the surface of the Moon, a group of engineers worked quickly and efficiently. They moved through the massive hangar where one of the ancient ships was stored, checking systems, running diagnostics, and ensuring that everything was in working order. The ship was enormous, its hull a dark metallic gray that seemed to absorb the light around it. It was a vessel built for war, and now it was waking up. As the ship's systems came online, the engineers couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. This was a piece of history, a relic from a time when humanity was preparing for the worst. But it was also a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, Earth was ready to defend itself. Back on Earth, General Marcus stood in front of a large screen, watching as reports came in from the different bases. One by one, the ships were coming online, their systems fully operational. The fleet was ready. "Begin the activation sequence," General Marcus ordered. His voice was calm, but there was an edge of determination in it. "Let the galaxy know that Earth is not to be underestimated." The activation sequence began, and across the solar system, the ancient ships powered up. Their engines glowed with a blue light, their weapon systems charged and ready. In space, these ships looked like ghosts from the past, but they were very real, and they were ready to fight. On Earth, the news began to spread. People learned about the fleet, and a sense of pride filled their hearts. They had been attacked, but they were not powerless. They had the means to fight back, and they would do so with all their strength. As the fleet prepared to move out, General Marcus sent a final message to the Galactic Council. It was a simple message, but it carried the weight of an entire planet's anger and determination. You have made a grave mistake. Now, you will face the consequences. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the galaxy. The Forgotten Fleet, once a symbol of Earth's darkest fears, was now the key to its brightest hope. The Galactic Council had awakened a force they could not control, and soon they would learn just how powerful humanity could be when pushed to the edge. The power of the past, the ancient fleet had been awakened, and Earth was ready to show the galaxy what it was truly capable of. In space, the ships that had slept for centuries now moved with purpose, their engines glowing with blue light as they glided through the void. These were not just ordinary ships. They were masterpieces of engineering, created in a time when humanity feared extinction and prepared for the worst. Now, these old giants were ready to protect their home. In the control room of the lead ship, named Eternal Dawn, Captain Sarah Lawson stood tall, her eyes focused on the vastness of space in front of her. She had been chosen to lead the fleet, a task she did not take lightly. Sarah was a seasoned officer, known for her calm under pressure and her sharp mind. But even she felt a shiver of awe as she looked around at the ship she was commanding. The Eternal Dawn was a colossal vessel, built for both offense and defense. Its hull was made of a special alloy, nearly indestructible, and its weapon systems were advanced even by today's standards. But what made the ship truly special was the technology it carried, technology that had been kept secret for hundreds of years. Sarah knew that the Galactic Council had no idea what was coming their way. "Status report," Sarah commanded, her voice steady. "All systems are operational," replied her second-in-command, Lieutenant Mark Davis. He was young but skilled, and he had proven himself during the fleet's reactivation. "Weapons are charged, shields are at full capacity, and the fleet is ready to engage." Sarah nodded, satisfied. "Good. Let's start with a test run. Bring us into position near the asteroid belt. I want to see what these ships can do." The Eternal Dawn and the rest of the fleet moved gracefully through space, coming to a halt near a dense asteroid belt. These floating rocks had been in space for millions of years, remnants of a planet that never fully formed. Now they would serve as the perfect target practice. "Prepare to fire," Sarah ordered. "Let's show the crew what this ship is capable of." The weapons officer, a grizzled veteran named Sergeant O'Malley, grinned as he activated the ship's main cannons. "Target locked," he announced. "Firing in 3, 2, 1. The ship's cannons unleashed a barrage of energy beams, each one as powerful as a small sun. The beams sliced through the asteroids like a knife through butter, turning the once massive rocks into tiny, harmless fragments. The display was nothing short of breathtaking. The crew cheered as the last of the asteroids disintegrated. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Impressive," she said, her tone cool but pleased. "But let's not get too comfortable. This was just the beginning." She knew that this was merely a test, but it was an important one. The fleet had passed with flying colors, proving that these old ships still had plenty of fight left in them. But the real test would come when they faced the Galactic Council's forces. Back on Earth, the people watched in awe as footage of the fleet's test run was broadcasted across the planet. The sight of their ancient ships in action filled them with pride and hope. For so long, they had feared the Galactic Council, believing that Earth was vulnerable and weak. But now, they saw that they had underestimated their own power. In the cities, people gathered in public squares to watch the news. Children pointed excitedly at the screens, their eyes wide with wonder. Adults stood in silence, their hearts swelling with a renewed sense of purpose. The death of the child had been a terrible loss, but it had also united them in a way nothing else could have. Now, they were ready to stand together and fight. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the Galactic Council was unaware of the danger that was heading their way. They had grown complacent over the years, believing that no one could challenge their rule. They controlled the most advanced technology, the most powerful ships, and the largest armies. To them, Earth was just another planet, one that could be easily subdued if it became too troublesome. But they had no idea that Earth had been preparing for this moment for centuries. The technology aboard the ancient fleet was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. It was not just advanced, it was revolutionary. The ships were equipped with energy shields that could withstand direct hits from even the most powerful weapons, and their engines allowed them to move faster than the speed of light. But the most impressive feature of these ships was their artificial intelligence. Each ship was controlled by a sophisticated AI system that could think, learn, and adapt. The AIs were programmed to protect Earth at all costs, and they were more than capable of carrying out that mission. As the fleet continued its journey through space, Sarah took a moment to reflect on the gravity of their mission. She knew that the coming battle would not be easy. The Galactic Council would not give up without a fight, and there would be losses on both sides. But she also knew that Earth had no choice but to fight back. "The Council thinks they can push us around," she said quietly to herself. "They think we're weak, that we're afraid. But they're wrong. We have the power of the past on our side, and we will use it to protect our future." The Eternal Dawn led the fleet towards its destination, a distant system where the Council's forces were stationed. The time for testing was over. The time for action had come, and as the ships moved closer to their target, the galaxy would soon learn just how powerful Earth's forgotten fleet truly was. The First Strike. The ancient fleet approached the Galactic Council's space station, a massive structure orbiting a distant, barren planet. From afar, it looked like a giant metal spider, its many legs extending outwards. The space station was a symbol of the Council's power, a fortress designed to intimidate and control. But now, it was about to face a force it had never encountered before. On the lead ship, Eternal Dawn, Captain Sarah Lawson stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the looming space station. Her crew was tense, every member focused on their duties. The time had come to make their move. The fleet was ready, but the battle ahead would be the true test of their strength. "Prepare for engagement," Sarah commanded. Her voice was calm, but there was a determined edge to it. "Target the station's main defenses. We don't want any surprises." Lieutenant Mark Davis, the second in command, relayed the orders to the rest of the fleet. "All ships, you have your targets. Engage on my mark." The fleet moved into position, their massive forms casting shadows across the stars. Each ship was armed with powerful weapons, and their energy shields glowed with a protective blue light. The Council space station was no match for the might of the ancient fleet, but the battle would not be easy. The Council had its own defenses, and they would not surrender without a fight. Sarah watched as the space station's defensive systems came online. Flashes of energy indicated the activation of shields and weapons. The station was preparing for the incoming assault, and the Galactic Council's forces were ready to defend their stronghold. "Mark," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Engage!" The fleet's weapon systems roared to life. Energy beams shot out from the ships, striking the space station's defenses. The beams hit with incredible force, causing the station's shields to flicker and pulse. The space station's weapons fired back, but the ancient fleet's shields absorbed the energy with ease. The first strike was a success. The space station's defenses were weakening, and the fleet's ships continued to bombard the target with relentless precision. The crew of the Eternal Dawn watched with a mixture of awe and determination as their weapons made contact. Each hit brought them closer to their goal. "Adjust targeting," Sarah ordered. "Focus on the station's main power core. We need to take out their ability to fight back." The crew worked quickly, recalibrating the ship's weapon systems. The Eternal Dawn fired another volley of energy beams, this time aimed directly at the power core. The beams struck true, and the station's core erupted in a brilliant explosion of light and debris. The space station trembled, and the lights on its surface flickered. The once formidable structure was now vulnerable. The fleet pressed its advantage, continuing the assault with relentless determination. The Galactic Council's forces scrambled to respond, but they were struggling to regain control. On Earth, people watched the battle unfold with bated breath. News feeds and broadcasts showed the conflict in real time, and the sight of the ancient fleet in action filled them with pride and hope. The loss of the child had been a devastating blow, but the fleet's strike against the Council's space station was a sign of their strength and resilience. Back in space, the battle raged on. The space station's defenses were failing, and the fleet's ships moved in for the final assault. The Eternal Dawn fired a series of precision shots, targeting the station's most vulnerable points. Each shot was calculated to maximize damage and ensure a swift victory. As the final blow was delivered, the space station's structure began to collapse. The once mighty fortress was now a wreckage of twisted metal and shattered components. The fleet's ships continued to fire until there was nothing left of the space station but debris. The battle was over. The ancient fleet had achieved its first major victory, and the Galactic Council's space station was no more. The ships of the fleet hovered in the debris field, their engines glowing with a satisfied hum. Sarah took a deep breath, her gaze fixed on the remains of the space station. The battle had been intense, but it was only the beginning. There were more battles to come, more challenges to face. But for now, they had delivered a powerful message to the Galactic Council. Earth would not be intimidated. "Damage report," Sarah said, turning to her crew. "How are we holding up?" "We've sustained minor damage," Lieutenant Davis replied. "But nothing we can't repair." "The fleet is in good shape," Sarah nodded. "Good work, everyone. Prepare for the next phase of our mission. We've shown them what we're capable of, but we're not done yet." The fleet began its journey back to Earth, its mission far from over. The victory at the space station was just the beginning of a larger conflict, one that would test the limits of humanity's strength and resolve. But as the fleet made its way through the stars, there was a sense of hope and unity among the crew. They were not just fighting for revenge, they were fighting for their future, for the protection of their home. On Earth, the victory was celebrated with a mixture of relief and anticipation. The people knew that the battle was far from over, but they took pride in the fact that their ancient fleet had proven itself against the Galactic Council. The first strike had been a success, and the galaxy would soon know that Earth was not to be underestimated. As the fleet continued its journey, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The darkness of the past had been met with the light of hope, and the future was full of possibilities. Desperate measures. The battle had raged for hours. The Galactic Council's space station was now a smoking wreck, its once imposing structure torn apart by the relentless assault of Earth's ancient fleet. But despite the destruction, the Council's forces fought on, their determination fueled by desperation. Inside the crumbling station, the Council members convened in a dark, fortified chamber. The room was filled with a tense silence as the leaders huddled around a central table, their faces lit by the dim glow of holographic displays. They watched in horror as their defenses faltered, their once proud stronghold now a symbol of their imminent defeat. "We cannot hold out much longer, Zarath," the cold and calculating alien said, his voice laced with frustration. "Our forces are dwindling and the station's core is damaged. We need to act fast or face complete annihilation." The other council members, their faces a mix of fear and anger, nodded in agreement. They had underestimated Earth's power, and now they were paying the price. The fleet's advanced weapons and technology had proven to be a devastating force, and their attempts to repel the attack had failed. "We need to employ our last resort," said another council member, a reptilian alien named Zarath. "The experimental weapon. It's risky, but it might give us a fighting chance." Zarath's eyes narrowed. "Are you suggesting using the dimensional rift generator? That device is unstable and dangerous. It could destroy not only the fleet, but also our own station." Zarath nodded. "It's our only hope. If we can activate it, we might be able to create a rift that will pull the fleet into another dimension, effectively removing them from the battlefield." The other council members looked at each other, their faces reflecting their uncertainty. But with their backs against the wall, they had little choice. They needed to take desperate measures to turn the tide of the battle. Zarath gritted his teeth and gave a reluctant nod. "Prepare the dimensional rift generator. We'll take the risk." Meanwhile, on the Eternal Dawn, Captain Sarah Lawson and her crew continued their assault on the space station. The station was now a battered shell of its former self, and the remaining Council forces were struggling to mount a defense. The ancient fleet had proven its might, but Sarah knew that the Council might have one last trick up its sleeve. "Captain, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the station," Lieutenant Mark Davis reported. "It looks like they're powering up some kind of experimental weapon." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We don't know what they're planning, but we need to be ready for anything." The crew sprang into action, the ship's systems shifting into defensive mode. Shields flared to life and weapons were primed for any potential threat. The Eternal Dawn and the rest of the fleet moved to new positions, spreading out to avoid becoming easy targets. Back in the Council's chamber, the dimensional rift generator was being activated. The device was a massive, complex machine filled with glowing crystals and pulsating energy conduits. Its purpose was to tear a hole in the fabric of space, creating a rift that could pull objects and ships into another dimension. "We're almost ready," Zareth said, his voice tense. "Once the generator is activated, we'll need to target it precisely. If we do this correctly, we can trap the fleet in another dimension and end this battle." Zareth glanced at the holographic display, which showed the fleet's movements. "Let's make sure we get this right. We don't have a second chance." The generator hummed with energy as it powered up. A swirling vortex of light and shadow began to form, growing larger and more unstable by the second. The Council members watched with a mix of hope and fear, their fate hanging in the balance. On the Eternal Dawn, Sarah's crew continued to monitor the station's activities. The energy readings from the station grew more intense, and the crew's concern grew with them. Sarah knew that the Council was preparing something dangerous, and she had to act quickly to protect her fleet. "Captain, the energy readings are increasing rapidly," Mark reported. "It looks like they're about to unleash whatever they've been working on." "Deploy countermeasures," Sarah ordered. "We need to be ready for whatever they're planning." The fleet's defensive systems engaged, launching a barrage of energy pulses designed to disrupt any incoming attacks. The ships spread out further, their shields working overtime to protect against potential threats. The battle had reached a critical point, and every decision mattered. As the dimensional rift generator reached its peak power, the space station's control room was filled with a blinding light. The vortex grew larger, its pull becoming stronger. The generator was ready to unleash its devastating effect. "Fire the generator!" Zareth commanded. "Target the fleet now!" The generator unleashed a powerful beam of energy, aimed directly at the fleet. The vortex expanded rapidly, its edges crackling with energy. It was a desperate measure, but one that the Council hoped would turn the tide of the battle. The beam struck the edge of the fleet's formation, and the rift began to pull at the ships. The Eternal Dawn and its companions felt the gravitational force of the rift, their systems straining to hold their positions. The crew braced for the impact, knowing that this was a critical moment. "Captain, we're being pulled towards the rift," Mark shouted. "We need to get out of its range or we'll be sucked in." Sarah's mind raced as she issued orders to her crew. The fleet had to survive this assault, and they needed to find a way to counter the Council's desperate measure. The battle was far from over, and the outcome was still uncertain. As the rift continued to expand, the fate of the fleet and the galaxy hung in the balance. The Council's last-ditch effort to secure victory had been set in motion, and the ancient fleet's response would determine the course of the conflict. The final battle. The galaxy held its breath as the two forces prepared for the final confrontation. The Galactic Council's space station, severely damaged but still operational, hovered above the barren planet. Earth's ancient fleet, a formidable armada of powerful ships, had regrouped and was ready for the decisive clash. The stakes were high, and both sides knew that this battle would determine their future. On the lead ship, Eternal Dawn, Captain Sarah Lawson stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the distant space station. The crew around her was tense, each person acutely aware of the importance of the moment. They had survived the Council's desperate attempt to use the dimensional rift generator, and now they were ready to end the conflict once and for all. "Status report," Sarah said, her voice calm but firm. "Shields are fully operational," Lieutenant Mark Davis replied. "Weapon systems are at full power. We're ready to engage." Sarah nodded, her expression resolute. "Good. We've seen what the Council is capable of, and we know they'll use every trick they have left. Prepare for a full assault! We end this today. The fleet moved into formation, the massive ships aligning themselves in a tight formation. The Eternal Dawn led the charge, its advanced sensors scanning the space station for any signs of movement. The rest of the fleet followed, their engines humming with energy as they prepared for the final push. On the Galactic Council's space station, the leaders watched the approaching fleet with a mix of fear and determination. The damage to their station was extensive, but they were not ready to surrender. The Council had one final plan, a last-ditch effort to protect their power and secure their place in the galaxy. "Deploy the remaining defense drones," Zarath commanded. "We need to buy more time. Activate the station's emergency shields. We cannot let them break through." The station's defense drones, small but heavily armed, launched from their hangars. They swarmed around the station, their weapons primed and ready. The emergency shields activated, creating an additional layer of protection around the space station. The Council's forces were determined to hold their ground, no matter the cost. The fleet opened fire, their weapons unleashing a torrent of energy beams and missiles. The energy beams struck the station's shields, causing them to flare with intense light. The defensive drones darted around, firing at the incoming projectiles and attempting to intercept the attacks. The battle was fierce, and the space around the station lit up with explosions and flashes of energy. "Target the station's main reactor," Sarah ordered. "If we can take that out, we'll disable their remaining defenses." The fleet's ships adjusted their aim, focusing their firepower on the heart of the space station. The reactor was a massive, glowing core, vital to the station's operations. The concentrated fire from the fleet's weapons hit the reactor, causing it to tremble and shudder. Inside the station, the Council members struggled to maintain control. The emergency shields were holding for now, but the damage was mounting. The reactor's core was showing signs of instability, and the station's systems were beginning to fail. "We can't hold them off much longer," Zarath said, his voice strained. "The reactor is critical. If it fails, it will take the entire station with it." Zarath's face was set in a grim expression. "We need to end this battle quickly. Prepare the escape pods. If we lose the station, we'll need to retreat and regroup." The escape pods, small and sleek, began to launch from the station. The Council members prepared to abandon their stronghold, their plans for the future hanging in the balance. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Sarah could see the station's desperation. The escape pods were a clear sign that the Council was preparing for defeat. But they were not done yet. The fleet had to press their advantage and ensure that the station could not recover. "Maintain the pressure," Sarah commanded. "We cannot give them a chance to regroup. Finish this now." The fleet's ships continued their relentless assault, their weapons pounding the space station's defenses. The reactor, now critically damaged, began to emit a blinding light. The Council's emergency shields flickered, their protective barrier failing under the onslaught. "Captain, the reactor is going critical," Mark reported, his voice urgent. "We need to get clear." Sarah nodded, her expression determined. "All ships, prepare for a full withdrawal. We've done what we came to do. Get out of range of the explosion." The fleet's ships began to maneuver away from the space station, their engines firing as they moved to a safe distance. The Eternal Dawn led the way, its crew working quickly to avoid the impending explosion. The space station's reactor finally reached its breaking point. With a deafening roar, it erupted in a massive explosion, sending shock waves through space. The station's remains were scattered across the void, a fiery testament to the fierce battle that had taken place. The ancient fleet, now safely out of range, watched as the remnants of the space station drifted away. The battle was over, and Earth's ancient fleet had emerged victorious. The Galactic Council's stronghold was destroyed, and their power had been dealt a severe blow. On the Eternal Dawn, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. The battle had been hard fought, and the cost had been high, but they had succeeded. Earth had defended itself and sent a clear message to the galaxy: humanity was not to be underestimated. Sarah stood at the bridge, looking out at the vast expanse of space. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter, and the weight of the battle lifted from her shoulders. The fleet had done its job, and now it was time to return home and begin the process of healing and rebuilding. The galaxy would remember this day as a turning point, a moment when Earth's ancient fleet rose to defend its future. The final battle was over, but the story of humanity's courage and resilience would continue to echo through the stars. A new beginning. The galaxy was quiet in the aftermath of the battle. The remnants of the Galactic Council's space station floated in the void, a silent reminder of the fierce conflict that had taken place. Earth's ancient fleet, victorious but weary, returned to their home space, their mission accomplished but their spirits heavy with the cost of victory. On the lead ship, Eternal Dawn, Captain Sarah Lawson stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. The battle had been hard fought, and the destruction of the space station marked the end of one chapter. Now a new chapter was beginning for humanity and the galaxy. "Captain, we're approaching Earth's orbit," Lieutenant Mark Davis announced. "The fleet is signaling for a coordinated re-entry." Sarah nodded. "Prepare for docking procedures. Let's get the fleet safely back home." The ships of the fleet began their descent into Earth's atmosphere, their powerful engines glowing as they entered the planet's orbit. The fleet had been through so much, and now they were returning to a world that had been waiting anxiously for their return. As the ships landed, a crowd of cheering people greeted them. Families, friends, and officials gathered to celebrate the heroes of the battle. Earth had been watching the fight unfold from a distance, and the victory was a source of immense pride. Sarah and her crew disembarked, their faces showing the weariness of battle but also the satisfaction of a job well done. They were met with cheers and applause, their bravery and sacrifice honored by the people they had fought to protect. "Welcome home," President Elena Martinez said, extending her hand to Sarah. "You and your fleet have done an incredible job. Your bravery has ensured our safety and secured our place in the galaxy." Sarah shook the president's hand, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, President. We couldn't have done it without the support of everyone back home. It's an honor to serve our planet." The celebration continued, with speeches, music, and a sense of unity that bound everyone together. The victory had been hard won, but it had also shown the strength and resilience of humanity. The fleet had defended Earth and demonstrated that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. As the festivities continued, Sarah took a moment to reflect on the battle and what it meant for the future. The conflict with the Galactic Council was over, but the galaxy was still full of unknowns. There would be new challenges and opportunities, and humanity needed to be ready for whatever lay ahead. In the days that followed, the fleet underwent repairs and maintenance. The ships had endured heavy damage, and the crew needed time to recover. The ancient fleet had proven its strength, but it would take time to restore everything to full readiness. Sarah visited the shipyards where the Eternal Dawn and its companions were being repaired. She spoke with the engineers and technicians, offering her thanks for their hard work. The repairs were a symbol of a new beginning, a chance to prepare for the future and continue exploring the galaxy. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, Sarah stood on the deck of the Eternal Dawn, looking out at the stars. The space around Earth was peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos of the battle. The stars twinkled softly, offering a sense of hope and possibility. Mark joined her, his expression thoughtful. "It's hard to believe it's all over. The galaxy feels so different now." Sarah nodded. "It is different. We've shown that humanity is strong and capable, but there's still so much to discover and understand. We've made a mark on the galaxy, but our journey is far from over." Mark looked out at the stars, a sense of wonder in his eyes. "What do you think the future holds for us?" "It's hard to say," Sarah replied. "There will be new challenges and new allies. We'll need to continue proving ourselves and building relationships with other civilizations. Our victory has opened new doors, and it's up to us to walk through them." The fleet was not only a symbol of power, but also a beacon of hope. Humanity had faced adversity and emerged stronger. The battle had forged new connections and opened new opportunities. It was a chance to build a future where Earth could play a central role in the galaxy. As the repairs continued and the crew rested, Sarah and her team began planning their next steps. They would use their experience to guide their future missions, working towards peace and cooperation with other worlds. The victory over the Galactic Council marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. Earth's ancient fleet had proven its worth, and humanity was ready to embrace the future with hope and determination. The stars shone brightly over Earth, a reminder of the vast possibilities that lay ahead. The galaxy was a place of wonder and challenge, and humanity was prepared to explore it with courage and curiosity. The journey was far from over, and the new beginning was filled with promise and potential. As Sarah looked out at the stars, she felt a sense of optimism. The future was uncertain, but humanity's spirit was strong. The ancient fleet had set the stage for a new era, one where Earth would take its place among the stars, ready to face whatever came next.